by saying white privilege, y'all took it out of context. We ain't take nothing out of context. You knew what you was trying to say. No, you just got mad that the black community wasn't 10 toes down with you. And I was one of the first people that wasn't. Since last year, I wasn't 10 toes down with you, bro. I'm sorry. I'm all for my black people. But when black people do some foolishness, they got to be held accountable just like any other damn race. And I'm telling you right now, she needs.
Instant karma has just struck Chicago skyguard Djonai Carrington in the most devastating way possible, as overwhelming public outrage and massive financial fallout have erupted following her violent on-court attack on Indiana's Sophie Cunningham. What Carrington thought was just another unpunished physical foul has exploded into an existential crisis for her professional basketball career. After delivering a brutal mid-air clothesline that sent Cunningham crashing violently onto the hardwood, screaming about white privilege on national television, and posting a hostile online threat referencing August 23rd, Carrington is suddenly facing the harsh reality of real-world accountability. Reports are circulating across digital sports networks that major corporate sponsors, led by athletic footwear giant Reebok, are preparing to invoke the morals clause in her contract and drop her multi-million-dollar endorsement deal, while fans across the nation are demanding immediate contract suspensions from the WNBA. For an athlete who believed that social media deflection and academic posturing would shield her from consequences, hitting her directly where it hurts most, in her pockets and professional contracts, serves as the ultimate wake-up call. The central question consuming sports talk shows and basketball commentary channels is simple. Is this tidal wave of instant karma finally going to put an end to non-basketball violence and dirty fouls across the league? When you analyze how rapidly this commercial fallout escalated, it becomes clear that modern sports marketing operates in an era of heightened consumer transparency. Fans are no longer willing to support brands that sponsor athletes who engage in non-basketball physical violence and toxic social media warfare. In years past, off-court controversies might have faded without significant commercial blowback, but with millions of new, highly engaged eyeballs watching every single possession of Indiana Fever basketball, on-court actions carry immediate economic consequences. Commentary channels like JTL Sports noted that Carrington's decision to commit an egregious foul, shout racial accusations, and post hostile warnings online created a public relations disaster that no major corporation can afford to defend. As corporate executives review customer feedback and evaluate brand risk, the prospect of losing lucrative endorsement revenue is sending shockwaves throughout the entire league. When millions of consumers mobilize to hold athletes accountable, corporate brands must choose between defending a controversial athlete or protecting their bottom line. The public backlash demonstrates that fans will actively boycott brands that enable reckless behavior.
By saying white privilege, y'all took it out of context. We ain't take nothing out of context. You knew what you was trying to say. No, you just got mad that the black community wasn't 10 toes down with you. And I was one of the first people that wasn't. Since last year, I wasn't 10 toes down with you, bro. I'm sorry. I'm all for my black people. But when black people do some foolishness, they got to be held accountable just like any other damn race. And I'm telling you right now, she needs.
To understand why this wave of backlash hit Carrington with such historic force, you have to look at the immediate aftermath of her flagrant foul 2 ejection. Rather than demonstrating basic professional remorse for endangering an airborne opponent, Carrington took to social media to issue what commentators labeled a completely fake apology. In her online statements, Carrington claimed that her comments about white privilege were taken out of context, instructing the public to exercise critical thinking and boasting about her degrees from Stanford and Baylor. But sports analysts and independent creators like JTL Sports were quick to point out that nobody took anything out of context, tagging the Indiana Fever 30 minutes after committing a violent foul against a white player left zero ambiguity about what was being communicated. Commentators emphasized that true accountability knows no racial or political boundaries. When an athlete commits an egregious, non-basketball foul and then tries to hide behind victimhood narratives, it alienates objective sports fans of all backgrounds. Sports creators noted that even prominent black analysts and fans are refusing to stand 10 toes down with Carrington's behavior, pointing out that foolishness and reckless physical violence on the court must be called out regardless of who commits it. For Carrington to assume that she would receive unconditional support from the community after delivering a dangerous blow to an opponent's head revealed a complete detachment from reality. Fans want competitive, clean basketball, not dangerous physical hits followed by gaslighting on social media. Attempting to weaponize social issues to escape athletic discipline only deepens public skepticism and proves that accountability must be enforced on the hardwood, setting a firm precedent for future competition. Maintaining player safety must remain the absolute foundation of professional sports.
Hit them where it hurt. Hit them in the pockets, bro. Now, this is a report that has come out. Let me blow it all the way up for y'all so y'all can see this. It says, perfect. Good job, Reebok, for having morals clause in her contract and enforcing by pulling it. Carrington is a bully that the league apparently is protecting. Wake up, WNBA, before someone get really hurt. You'll get sued because we Americans won't stand for the abuse. Now, it states here,
The financial fallout escalated rapidly as thousands of passionate basketball consumers mobilized online, directing their outrage toward corporate sponsors representing Carrington. When reports surfaced that Reebok was actively reviewing her endorsement agreement and preparing to drop her representation under contractual morals clauses, it signaled a major shift in how athlete behavior is policed. In modern professional sports, player contracts and commercial endorsements represent the lifeblood of an athlete's earning power. While league executives often drag their feet on issuing formal game suspensions, corporate sponsors cannot afford to have their brand identity linked to on-court violence and volatile social media rants. Sports commentary channels highlighted the poetic justice of this situation, noting that common sense should have warned Carrington that clotheslining Sophie Cunningham on national television would carry severe consequences for her financial livelihood. Major footwear brands invest millions to associate their products with athletic excellence, sportsmanship, and positive community engagement. When an endorsed athlete becomes a public relations liability that alienates millions of potential customers, corporations act swiftly to protect their bottom line. The prospect of losing millions in endorsement earnings proves that commercial sponsors are willing to step up and enforce the discipline that league leadership has failed to deliver. Economic pressure remains the most effective deterrent against dangerous fouls, forcing athletes to reconsider reckless actions on the floor. Maintaining corporate partnerships requires upholding standards of sportsmanship that appeal to a diverse customer base worldwide, ensuring that brands maintain their commercial credibility across the global marketplace.
had some words for DJ.
First and foremost, respect to Djonai, because I actually appreciate somebody that can come to a conversation with a little bit of intellect. So I appreciate that first and foremost. Kudos to you, Djonai Carrington. And also, I do not stand with those that are coming at you and attacking your personhood. Attack the action, but don't attack the person. So let me also preface with that. With that being said, Djonai, you can't act as though you discovered the moon. You can't act as though you are the genius in a room and everybody else is idiotic. What I mean by that is, if you are going to suggest that we should think critically about a statement white privilege when you at the Indiana Fever, you didn't give us much to think critically.
The controversy gained even greater momentum when television personality and former NFL linebacker Emmanuel Acho released a devastating video response directly addressing Carrington's claims. While maintaining a respectful tone toward her intelligence and athletic ability, Acho systematically dismantled Carrington's attempt to position herself as the sole genius in the room, while treating the entire sporting public as foolish. Acho emphasized that, in American society, communication operates on a speaker-oriented standard, which places the complete burden of clarity and context on the person speaking, not the audience listening. Acho pointed out that if an individual chooses to publicly post an inflammatory, racially charged term like white privilege without providing any explanation, common sense dictates that the public will interpret it based on the obvious surrounding context, namely, being ejected for fouling an Indiana Fever player. Acho directly challenged Carrington by noting that despite claiming she was not referring to the foul, she has consistently failed to explain what she was actually talking about. refusing to clarify her meaning while demanding that the public guess a secret intention exposed the fatal flaw in her defense. You cannot throw volatile rhetoric into the public square and then blame the audience for interpreting your words based on your immediate actions. Real intellectual rigor demands taking ownership of mistakes rather than creating rhetorical smokescreens. Fans expect athletes to demonstrate maturity both in interviews and on social media, upholding the highest standards of professional conduct across all public platforms. Public figures must understand that words carry real consequences.
Receiver-oriented, speaker-oriented country, it is on you, the speaker, to be clear, to be direct, and to be obvious with what you are speaking about. It is not on the receiver, the reader, or the listener. If we were in a listener-oriented country, completely different. Onus is on me. America is a speaker-oriented country, so the onus is on you. If you want to tweet out white privilege with no context and simply assume that we should try to understand what you're talking about, you didn't say much for us to figure out what you're talking about, so you allowed the whole world to run with it. Last thing I will say is very simply, so many people have...
The national media spotlight on Carrington's conduct expanded even further as mainstream television networks, including Fox News, dedicated prominent segments to the escalating controversy. On national broadcasts, analysts dissected the timeline of Carrington's social media activity, highlighting that jumping on mobile devices during a game to post inflammatory statements represents a catastrophic failure of basic crisis public relations. Media experts pointed out that Crisis Management 101 requires owning the mistake, offering a genuine explanation, and outlining clear steps to fix the problem. Yet Carrington chose deflection and arrogance at every turn. Broadcast contributors also leveled sharp criticism against WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and league executives for their chronic lack of leadership. By failing to establish firm boundaries against physical intimidation, dirty hits, and technology violations during games, league officials have allowed toxicity to fester inside the sport. Commentators noted that when league leadership refuses to protect players like Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark from unprovoked physical attacks, it creates a leadership vacuum where corporate sponsors and public boycotts become the only mechanisms for holding players accountable. The intense national scrutiny on Fox News and major sports networks proves that the WNBA's internal problems can no longer be swept under the rug. Corporate sponsors will not stand by silently while league officials allow chaos to undermine their multi-million-dollar investments. Establishing clear boundaries is essential for the league's commercial stability and public image. Executive inaction forces brands to protect their own financial interests aggressively.
About the Djonai Carrington situation, and let's give it a buzz.
Just responding to the white privilege post, saying in part, I've never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. Try exercising your critical thinking skills. I know you studied psych. I would never use that term as a rhetorical weapon, knowing the historical and social weight it holds without having the proper evidence to substantiate it. Sage, she posted that and is now claiming it didn't apply to the foul that was called or the ejection. I mean, come on.
In conclusion, the instant karma hitting Djonai Carrington represents a defining turning point for women's professional basketball. The potential loss of major endorsement contracts and the overwhelming public backlash demonstrate that actions on the hardwood carry real-world consequences that cannot be erased by degree boasting or social media deflection. As Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and the Indiana Fever continue to drive unprecedented global viewership and multi-million-dollar economic growth for the sport, the era of tolerating cheap shots and toxic drama is officially coming to an end. Moving forward, the message to every player in the league is loud and clear. Dirty physical plays will destroy your brand, alienate your fans, and cost you millions in corporate revenue. True greatness in professional sports is defined by athletic discipline, sportsmanship, and elite performance on the basketball court. Fans across the country will continue to stand behind players who compete with integrity and let their game speak for itself. Indiana's rise to national dominance will continue, proving that talent, teamwork, and authentic competitive spirit will always triumph over hostility and reckless violence. The era of unchecked on-court hostility is ending as financial accountability takes center stage. ensuring that player safety and genuine athletic excellence prevail across all levels of competition. Protecting the integrity of the sport guarantees a prosperous future for all athletes across the globe.